So welcome everyone to our November meeting. We've got a couple folks here from APD. Give us an update, Commander Nora Harrington and Sergeant Benjamin Peterson. And we'll have our committee report officer and committee reports. We will see about county and legislative update. I know mayor's office and common council are going through budgeting. So I know Gabriella had reached out and said she wasn't sure if she'd be able to make it or would likely be late. I've got a couple points on that end, and then adjournment. So at this point, I'd like to turn things over to Albany Police Department. And Commander Harrington, Sergeant Peterson.
Sure. So I usually take questions, and well, first let me introduce myself. I'm Commander Harrington. I became the commander of South Station NEU and booking in April of this year. I am a 16-and-a-half-year veteran with the Albany Police Department in a sworn personnel capacity. I've been actually with the department for almost 19 years now. Started off patrol in 2006, got to be a sergeant 8 years later and a commander 8 years after that. So that is a little bit about me. Your particular district, I pulled the calls for service for your particular neighborhood, and I'm not seeing any significant calls. Correct me if I am wrong, if you guys are feeling that anything in your neighborhood is of particular concern. But recently, within the last 3 weeks, I have done some evidence-based patrol with the neighborhoods and the hotspots for the Albany Police Department, one of which included your neighborhood association, and they paired up with your beat officer to take care of the complaint that I know we had with the park, with one of the residents walking the dog and being accosted by a man while they were out on their steps. So that is the piece from me. Ben may have a little bit about lead, but I am certainly here to answer any questions should anyone have any.
No, I think the commander hit on pretty much everything I was going to mention. My name is Ben Peterson. I don't think I've attended your guys' neighborhood association meeting. I am the evening sergeant with the neighborhood. So I work closely with Officer Durand and his counterpart, Officer Reedy. I'm also involved with the department's lead team. Lead is the Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion Program. So we work closely with Catholic Charities and a bunch of other service providers in the city to try to link people with services that are committing crimes based on a number of behavioral health factors, whether it's homelessness, mental illness, addiction, or poverty. One of the things that Officer Durand wanted me to forward to you guys was he actually made a lead diversion within the last month in the neighborhood association area. So I'm not exactly sure the circumstances, but I do know it was a social contact referral, which is a new type of diversion that we're phasing into, where someone doesn't necessarily need to be committing a crime, but they can be in jeopardy of getting arrested or having behaviors that are going to put them in jeopardy of being put into the criminal legal system. So he was excited about that, and he wanted to make sure that everyone was aware that that was something that was happening. I know ongoing details, police details that we have in your guys' neighborhood is Market 32, 40 Delaware. So we work with security over there. Once or twice a week, we have a detail posted where an officer takes a marked unit, parks it in front, and liaisons with security just to be a visible presence to try to deter shoplifting and any other, inappropriate behaviors that they're dealing with over there. A lot of times it could be just people trespassing inside, or excuse me, a lot of times the kids from Hackett will go in there and steal candy on the way home from school. Nothing monumental on the criminal side of things, but stuff that needs to be addressed regardless. And then I see Jackie Ring on here. Jackie's one of our community liaisons for the Community Liaison Partnership Program. So we have an academy class in right now of 7, and we'll be phasing those guys into the rotations for their one-on-one meetings with community liaisons. And we're excited to start doing that. So that's all I have for everyone. But we're here for questions if anyone has anything.
Great. I've got a few. If you could maybe explain the process for neighborhood folks, if they are concerned about an individual, who is, maybe not committing a crime, but what is appropriate and who should we contact if we have concerns for something that should go through the community referral or sorry if I butchered that phrasing.
No, you're actually ahead of the game. So community referrals is the next phase. Eventually, we want to have a mechanism for community groups, bids, and business owners to be able to refer people into the program. We're just not quite there yet. But for now, your beat officer. So Officer Durand is briefed on how to make lead diversions through that social contact mechanism. And anyone that you have concerns about, feel free to forward to him. And then the process would look like him going out there and meeting up with that person, explaining what services Catholic Charities can offer them. And then we call it a warm handoff. So we'll call Catholic Charities out 24/7. They'll either talk to them on the phone and set up an appointment, or they'll actually come out and physically take them back to the office or take them to wherever is a safe place to start doing an intake assessment to try to meet their needs.
Great. Also, if you or Commander Harrington could address current staffing levels. I know we've heard before somewhere around 65 to 75 vacancies currently. Do you have a current number, and what are your current outreach plans for new hiring beyond the current academy class?
That would be for me. We are currently 63 officers short for staffing. We are exploring new ways of retention and outreach, including recruiting, lateral transfers. We're also exploring what we can do with the civil service law. So civil service law dictates how long lists can last. We are also exploring chances to offer the Albany Police Test in a relatively shorter amount of time so that we have the next test certified and ready to go by the time we are looking for a new academy class.
Thank you. So, and that's actually news to me. Civil service law regulates not only the timing of the tests, but sorry, I lost my thought. I'm sure the standards for police. Could you speak a little bit more about how that's been problematic, or
I think I understand what you're trying to say.
yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
Pay attention and take notes. And
so typically our lists are certified for roughly 2 years. And we offer the test once every 2 years. We're exploring options to offer the test sooner, so that we have applicants, able and ready to be canvassed by the time that we've exhausted the list. So as you know, civil service does it by test scores. And then you go down the list, and when the list is exhausted, we offer another test. However, we're exploring offering the test while another list is currently in action, so that we can have tests back to back and candidates ready to go. And along with that, it's a lot of recruitment in new areas. ACPAC is exploring ways to, help us volunteer. Dispatchers are also looking to volunteer and do some recruiting. We're looking for new and innovative ways from all around the country. The chief attended a meeting in, I believe it was Washington, D.C. Last week, specifically for recruitment and retention and what other departments around the country are doing. So we have some new, fresh ideas that are going to come and see what we can roll out to generate some interest. And a lot of that hinges basically on our community and advertising for us, right? Because we want to know, or people want to hear that they've got support from the totality of the 360 package. So, we try to partner as best we can with the community so that we can grow our interest in people who want to become a police officer.
Great, thank you. I've had a few questions if anyone else does.
Yes, I have a question. Is it my imagination, or is the problem with panhandlers and homeless people gotten worse? I feel terrible when I'm stopped at a traffic light on Henry Johnson or on the corner of Lark or Everett Road, and you have these sad-looking people with these signs asking for money, and I think the common wisdom is to not give them any money. Is that true? And what is being done to facilitate help for those folks, or for the homeless people that are sitting on the Puerto Rican statue and up on the corner of Lark in Washington?
Yeah, I can speak a little to that, and that the commander definitely has some overlap with all the CIT stuff that she does. So I personally have probably talked to every one of those panhandlers and all those spots that you've just talked to, and offered them anything I can offer them. And a lot of it is they don't want it. Ever 990 especially, that's a racket for them. They make decent money over there. So even me bringing out caseworkers from a whole bunch of different service providers to try to talk to them, they're disinterested just because we're interrupting their business day. So yeah, you are right. When it comes to giving them money, I would highly recommend not doing that. Not only because it's unsafe to stop on the side of a highway and there's a lot of traffic issues associated with that, but also because you don't necessarily know where that money is going. If you want to donate to a homeless person or someone and help them, there's a ton of different charities in the city
Right.
that we can point you in the right direction, or you can speak to someone in the mayor's office. We've came as far as doing a lot of research on putting up signage in regards to the panhandling issues over there, and trying to put together some kind of pact where people can just donate money, and it would get distributed to a bunch of different charities. But yeah, I don't think you're wrong. I think it probably has been an uptick in the panhandler situations as well. I see it. We're trying to address it on Madison Avenue and a bunch of different areas. And yeah, it's ongoing, and it's an uphill battle for us.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Jenny Law. I have a question. It's similar. It's not about panhandlers. It's about folks who are experiencing mental health crises. Who are we supposed to call? Because we used to have a lot of resources in Albany that would, um, you know, help people who seemed like they were in crisis but didn't need a police intervention. Recently, I unfortunately had 3 occasions where somebody needed help because they seemed like they were in crisis. I don't think they met the threshold of threat to themselves or others, but it was concerning. And none of the places that I called were still in business. Like Albany County Department of Health, when I called, they said you need to call the police. It's the only place that you can call. And I feel like I'm hoping that's not the answer.
That would be for me. So I currently coordinate our CIT, which is our crisis intervention training, at the Albany Police Department. The Albany County Mobile Crisis Team, MCT, is currently staffed and open. So I would recommend calling them if you do not want to involve police. That is one avenue. Actually, it's probably the best avenue if you aren't going to be utilizing police services for people in crisis. They are a team of social workers that are mobile and active, and then can meet people out in the community where they are. That is who the Albany Police Department utilized when we also need additional help on calls. Albany County Mental Health is the umbrella, right? But the mobile team is who responds out. They are still in service and employed, so I would recommend calling them. I'm going to see if I can bring up the number for you now.
I'm putting it in the chat right now.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you. So
Um,
appreciated.
Of course. I mean, so we do a lot of work, and then we also have a team of people that, like Catholic Charities and other resources that we utilize on the outside. Pathways to Health is something that can be utilized for people. I don't know how mobile they are. They require appointments and stuff like that, but Mobile Crisis has all of the contact referrals. So I would just recommend calling them as like the umbrella to come out and respond to people.
Are they available 24/7?
Yes.
Excellent.
When I've called them, they've said to call the police. It's like that they weren't accessible from the general public. It seemed like they were waiting to be sort of dispatched to the police or something. So are you pretty confident that the general public can call them? Because that was not my experience.
So they do take referrals. They interact. It's about a 50-50. They come out. Their stats are usually, split between the police and us. They usually, if it is a crisis and people are behaviorally challenged, I guess I will just say the nice way of saying it, they usually prefer to come with the police because, their safety is a concern too. But they do take calls and referrals from people in the general public if it is, a benign concern where they aren't worried for their safety.
So my experience actually was that there was a woman who was known to the neighborhood who was talking about having been, physically assaulted and giving birth, which didn't seem likely. And so I had called the mobile crisis number. I actually used to work in mental health, so I was familiar with them. And they told me that they were no longer in service and I had to call the police. And so I tried to call a number of other social service organizations, and I ended up calling the police because I was very concerned about this woman. And, they basically told me when I called dispatch that, you know, is she a threat to herself or others? And I said, no, I'm just concerned about her. I need a welfare check. And it seemed like there was no way to get her that kind of service. And this was about 4 months ago. So Melanie, it sounds like that was your experience recently too.
Yeah, I think the difficulty is, we're all told to call like this 988 number, which is not for general mental health. That's for individuals to call who are seeking help. I mean, that's the same line that's been in place for years. That's the suicide prevention line, just with a different phone number that's easier to remember. Then it's like if you call the police, that the question is the person a risk to self or others, which often you can't assess really at that point, and you're just concerned about that individual. For example, there was a gentleman that I saw sitting at Dana Park. He clearly had walked away from one of the hospitals. He was completely naked except for a hospital gown that was sort of hanging on the front of him. It was very cold outside at the time. He had on no other clothes. He was rocking back and forth. And I kept watching police vehicles drive past him, which was shocking to me. And I called and asked for help and said, and the same thing, they said, what's he doing? And I said, he's just sitting there, because that's all he was doing. But it's freezing. He's naked. He's in a hospital gown. Clearly he's walked away from a facility. He needs assistance. So these are the frustrations that we have in this area. There's got to be help for people other than when they're a direct threat to self or others, where they just simply need help. And that's the problem. So I too, Jenny, have called the mobile crisis number. I've been told they don't send out anyone from calls from the general public, that they're short staffed, and that it has to go through the police, and if the police will call them if indeed they feel that they are needed. So I've gone around in circles myself.
Commander Harrington, I know that we met, this is Jeff Crumpton, and I'm with the neighborhood as well as the Conservancy. I know that Gabriella and Matt Peter had spoken about the Accord program, that kind of the pilot program that was in the Hill Towns, and there was some conversation about rolling that out. I know that's not a kind of a near term, that's more of a kind of a longer term solution, but it sounds like some of this may roll into one of those programs. And I was just kind of curious if that was still, in the works, understanding that there's a lot of kind of logistics to kind of go behind it.
So my understanding that is still in the works. Actually, I have a a meeting on my calendar for an upcoming date to discuss the Accord program within the city of Albany boundary limits. That's really all I can say about it now because I don't know what the logistics are going to look like for the city of Albany, but that will involve a social worker pairing up with, I believe, an EMS team. But again, that was for more of the hill towns. I do not know what it's going to look like for the city of Albany, but we can certainly bring that back to the table in the future.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mhm. And then Gwen, maybe it was you who was talking before, the woman who, the 4 months ago, who had given birth. She, if we are talking about the same person, is one of my clients. She has a team of people behind her. So if in the event that she needs help, I would say that there are a number of care providers out there, and I'm trying to think it would be who the best person would contact, but she does have a team of people out there for her, a lot of them. That's really all I can say due to HIPAA, but she does have people.
Yeah, I'll
And
put
I
my
really
my
appreciate
contact
that.
in
I
there.
just like my strong stance as an advocate for improving public service delivery, as I know you are, based on the work that you've shared and the work that you do, is that I hope we can get to the point where like there's a standard number, that folks can call for folks who are in crisis, and don't need police intervention because you all do amazing work, and we're so appreciative of the service you provide to the community. But I think we're all aware that there has to be a better way, and we're hopeful that one is coming in the future. So thank you.
Mhm.
Actually, I have a question. If we could bounce back to the diversion program, I think I didn't, I don't know if I missed it or if it wasn't entirely clear to me what types of, can you give us some examples of the types of situations that would be appropriate for?
I can. Yeah, my go-to example is shoplifting. So we get called to Price Chopper on Delaware Avenue. Loss prevention as someone that was stealing food, and through conversations with them, the person admits that they're stealing for resale. So maybe they were stealing something so they can sell it and buy drugs, or maybe it was a mother who was stealing food for her family. Those are our perfect diversions. The officers would show up there. They would have a conversation with a person, explain to them, hey, in lieu of getting arrested for this, we're willing to drop the charges as long as you are willing to sit down with a caseworker and come up with a plan. And that's the only threshold that we have for them to have those charges go away. And it's all self-initiated. So the person can say, no, I really don't need help. As long as they sit down with the case manager, they're fine. The charges are gone. A lot of people say that they need help with housing, or they need help with finding a job or some kind of other services, and they get benefits that way. Another one we've had before too, it's not necessarily your area, but the Dunkin' Donuts in Lark and Madison. We had an individual homeless gentleman during the winter. He was sitting there all day, to the point where the staff's like, yeah, you've been here for 10 hours. You have to leave. And he refused to leave. Staff called the police, and the guy said, you're going to have to arrest me. You're going to have to take me to jail. I'm not leaving. He's like, I don't have a place to go. This was actually your beat officer again, Officer Durand, wound up doing a diversion for trespassing and linked this person with services. And they wound up getting him some temporary housing for that night. And eventually, anyone that's on this call knows how complicated it is to get housing in the city of Albany, and the hoops you have to jump through. They're eventually able to get him some more permanent housing. So that's low-level crimes that are being committed. One of our stipulations is that the victim needs to consent to it as well. So Price Chopper is the victim. When stuff gets stolen, they need to be willing to forego charges. If someone hears car got broken into and the person was stopped by the police, you would need to consent to that person getting diverted to the lead program. Same if an officer were to stop someone and find drugs on them, the officer needs to use his discretion and allow this person to be diverted to the program. Those are just a couple examples, but we get creative with it. We're very inclusive when it comes to our our charges, as long as they're non-violent misdemeanors and general city ordinance violations, like open containers and stuff like that, we can divert them.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, both Commander Harrington and Sergeant Peterson. This has been very good discussion. And I thank you very much for your time.
Yes, nice meeting you all.
Agreed. Thank you for the invitation.
Great. So next up, I think we have our reports. So for the association, I met with the assistant pastor of the Israel AME Church on Hamilton, where we had previously had our in-person meetings to look getting back inside. That meeting went very well. Looking to partner with them on various activities as well. I'll be talking with the pastor as well. That is not yet scheduled, so that we can kind of finalize use of the space. And yeah, I'll keep folks updated on that. The other thing which I've been asked about and am very happy to announce is the joint holidays party with Center Square Association. It's coming December 8th at Lark Hall at 5:30. It'll be $25 per adult at the door. Great time to get together socially with everyone and support the neighborhood and just kind of relax and enjoy the season. And I'll be sending around an email about specifically about that as well. It's open to anyone in the neighborhood. We do ask for RSVPs. Folks can just send me a note, president@hudsonpark.org, or any other avenues of reaching out. I also provided I updated the report Jeff had put together for sidewalks and pavements in 2020 with some additional spots, and I've given that to Gabriela Romero, who is sharing that with the mayor's office. What I gave was a spreadsheet. It's linked in the agenda I sent around. It should be set up to be updatable. And so as new stuff is taken on, or we see that stuff is taken off, we can keep that up to date. For the mayors, for whoever asks, and an idea we can, keep track of the work done and kind of hold people to some account. That's really it from my end. If there's any questions.
Carol, can you go back to number 1?
Sure.
What's the holdup for being able to meet at the church?
It's timing. I reached out. Scheduling the meeting took a while, and then trying to get together with the pastor, taking a while. Their pastor is not in town anymore. He commutes from Connecticut. He's only in town 1 day a week to provide services. And so, it's, and then, so between schedules and whatnot, that's, it's a timing, resource issue largely.
Thank you.
Sure. Anything else? No. So Keith sends his regrets. He had, a personal matter to take care of. Do have the treasurer's report. Our finances are doing well. We, the largest outlays in this period were for maintenance of our the annual maintenance of our website. And then we paid out of the Stroop Stroll proceeds. About half of that went to a joint coordinated with Center Square for maintenance of Hudson J Park, which, as you know, we've had, we do a lot of, volunteer work for it. And then as well, we've had a contractor who does mowing and keeps it as nice as it does, as it is. I don't think we had as much mowing this year because of the lack of rain. But I don't know, Jackie, if there's anything else you want to say about Hudson J.
Just to mention that Center Square also pitched in 50% of our profits from the stoop stroll toward the park, which is held in our joint account. Our joint account is real low. It's about 1,700 right now. We've been discussing with you all and among ourselves the need to launch a capital funding campaign for the park for some specific work that needs to be done, most particularly a drip irrigation system, because we cannot keep pace with the watering needs in the park. It's all being done by hand, by volunteers. Also, a combination of the city mowing down a lot of our fencing when they plow the sidewalks and normal deterioration of fencing. Some of that is going to have to be replaced. We did this year take up all the fencing in the park and have stored it so that what we have can't be mowed down. So, but we've got some capital needs, and it was our thought to sit down and discuss those needs and, see how we perhaps jointly can raise some additional funding from the community at large, not just membership, because so many people use the park that are not members of either association. And we thought perhaps to tie that to the fact that this year the park is 25 years old. So that's sort of in the imagination process. The time frame generally thought of was perhaps spring, April, when people are thinking about the coming season, the use of the park. So, we to be continued is about the best I can say at this point. The conversation to continue and see how we can manage it.
Great, thank you. I went ahead. Any questions? Financing Hudson J Park?
I had a quick, Jackie, this is Melanie. I was just thinking about the garden tour, and since if it's held again where people voted and whatnot, the stoop contest, I'm blanking out, sorry. I'm wondering if you could tie that in a little bit too, because then people visiting from the community would see the actual park. while they were there, you know what I mean, with that event. If you're going to do like the stoop stroll or do something with the garden tour that involves the park this summer, maybe you could also have donations there, and as people are seeing what park we're talking about.
Yeah, Melanie, in January, we're going to start meeting and talking about the construct of this year's stroll. And absolutely, I mean, we certainly could ask for contributions from the general public as part of that event. And that would be something to be considered, certainly. Why not?
I just think when people can see what park you're talking about, you know, and I don't know if you could put the history in the 25 years, that might, you know, while they're feeling in a good mood, having a
well,
fun time.
We do try to drive them to the park because of the market being there, as well as the flower pot sale, and other little attractions. So we do really try. Oh, and also that's where we collect the ballots.
Mhm.
Right.
So we do make a real effort to drive them into the park. But I think what you're suggesting is a more direct ask on that day for contributions. And
Right.
certainly that is a good idea.
Right. Carrie, you had something?
Yeah, I don't know if this has been explored, but are there grants or anything that we can apply for? I see, like beautification grants, or I don't know. I don't know if it fits into any of that, but I don't know if that's been explored yet or not, versus having all of us continue to contribute, which I think is awesome because it is our park. But just knowing that this is something that's supposed to be kind of shared too with the city of Albany, or maybe if there's something through the county.
I can answer that. Hudson J Park is an anomaly. It is not actually a city park. It is a neighborhood park. And it came about 25 years ago by the state of New York, the city, and the neighborhood associations, our two associations, who drove the bus on that, coming together and saying to the city, we don't want this barren wasteland of weeds and garbage. We want a park. Well, the land is owned by the state. So together, it was negotiated that the state would lease the land for $1 every 10 years for the city to establish a quote neighborhood park. Then the three entities got together in the actual design and construction of the park. The city did a great deal, but so did the state with their design services and construction services and so on. So everybody came together, it happened. But the kicker in the deal was that going forward, its maintenance was up to the neighborhood associations. So that's where we are in this position, that was part of the original agreement. Obviously the city or the state wants no part of it. They just happen to own the land. And $1 every 10 years is not too bad for rent. So in response to your question, however, specifically about grants, the county has a grants through our legislators for various neighborhood enterprises. Center Square and Hudson Park jointly have applied for those grants, and we have received 2 of them. one year before last, and then one before that.
Mm-hmm.
But you can only apply every 2 years. So, for example, we're not eligible this year. So, and they're not big amounts. My recollection is that the first one we got was around, this is out of my head, I think it was around 2,500. The second one we got was 1,700. So, yeah, in answer to your question, Carrie, there are some grants there, but it's pretty limited in what we can actually get.
Thanks, Jackie.
You're welcome.
Thanks. Carrie, I'll turn things over to you for the minutes. I sent those around over email. Tried to put them on the slide, but I couldn't read them, and that was the only thing on my screen. So I figured sharing them over email was going to be easier for folks. I can also put them up into the chat too, real quick. Maybe. It's weird. No. Okay, cannot put them into the chat.
So I think, Terrell, you're just looking for those of us who opened our email and opened the document for somebody to motion to approve them.
I'd like to make a
Yes.
motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second the motion.
Great. Any nays? All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
All right. Thank you.
And Carrie, sorry, I should have asked this sooner, but you've got everyone's name for this month's minutes.
The only one I wasn't certain of was Gwen. Is that Lippett?
I'm sorry, I was muted. That's correct.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thanks. And then, well, actually, before those, if there are any other reports, information.
Yeah, I'll bring up one thing. On the 10th of December, there will be a holiday market in the Washington Park Lake House. This is something that the neighborhood associations led by Shadi Khedivi and the Conservancy are putting together with the hopes that it's a one-day event this year, but the intent would be to grow it to be a larger holiday market in future years. Jen Miller at Lark Hall is running that, so she has a great group of small businesses that will be there. So I just want to encourage you to take a look at it and support it if you can.
Jeff, what's the timing?
Oh, I am not sure, but I will post that to. Oh, Jackie, do you know?
I do.
Yes.
It's from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. We've had some conversations among us, that being the group that Jeff mentioned, about trying to maybe get some musicians from the Albany High School to perhaps do some performances. That's pretty much in Shadi's court. She's the one who's been in those conversations. We're also, we need to meet soon, but we're also looking at what else could be done further on in the winter for another type or additional piece of a winter carnival. if that could include, for example, ice skating or toboggan runs or whatever. We're talking, but we're also a little bit stumped in the sense that we're in global warming and we don't even know if we're going to have winter weather. But we're talking and trying to figure it out.
There's always volleyball tournaments.
Yeah, we get volleyball on the, where the dogs run. I don't know. But anyway, it's in play. We just felt we needed to do something this year to, like, again, focus on the park, focus on the lake house. We had hoped originally to be able to have a 2-day market on that weekend. However, before we put our application in for this use of the lake house, somebody else had put an application in, which was approved, to use the lake house every Sunday during November and December. So we could only get 1 day. So he took it.
Jackie, is there a call for vendors for the market?
The organization of the market is entirely in the hands of Jen Miller, because she's experienced, and none of us know how to do it. And if you have an idea about vendors, I would suggest you just get in touch with Jen. I know she's quite open. She's quite open to vendors. And do you know how to reach her?
I think so, yes.
Okay, so just get in touch with Jen. We haven't wanted to be involved because, she's the expert and we don't know what we're doing with markets. So yeah, get in touch with Jen. I'm sure if you know somebody who might be really good, she'd be receptive.
Excellent, thank you.
And I'll add 2 things to what Jackie said. We are exploring doing some grooming for cross-country trails this summer, this winter, similar to what the city does at Capitol Hills, to encourage some winter sports. Obviously recreation will probably do some other stuff, like they'll be measuring ice on the lake for ice skating, things like that. So there will be some opportunities for that. Oh gosh, I lost my train of thought as well. I think that's it. There will be more coming, and as we get closer to that weekend, we will be putting stuff on the listserv just so everyone's reminded and has some details about the event and all the rest of it.
Great. So legislative update. I don't believe Gabriella has joined. You have, speak up. Nope, I don't see you on the list. So just with that, she wanted folks to know on December 3rd, she'll be at Daily Grind at 10:30 to 1:30. On December 13th, they're going to she'll be doing a town hall at Westminster Presbyterian from 6 to 7:30 p.m. And she'll be at Oak Social on Lark Street from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on December 18th. She's also organizing a neighborhood cleanup starting around Dana Park on the weekend after Thanksgiving at 1 o'clock. I think that's it. Know we're a little over time, folks. So if anyone has anything else or a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good seeing
Thank
you
you.
all.
Have a good night. Thank you.